I'm Tom Huffmeister. I'm in downtown Tavares this afternoon out on beautiful Lake Dora. I'm here to speak to you about an experience in Guatemala. Always have great opportunity when I'm visiting third world countries and to learn from some of the mission work that we do. I had the opportunity to go to Guatemala with the Adventist group, and you can see a couple pictures here of the language barrier. Sometimes the person who put up these signs doesn't necessarily understand the difference between stop and or not. It's exciting to eat in different countries. They tend to have lots of fruit available as it's grown locally, and so sometimes the grocery store just comes to you. An experience that I had about 6 years prior to my Guatemala trip. I'm hanging out with the director of a group as we were doing some minor construction things. And I asked him, so when 20 of us come off a bus, who is it that you hate to see come out of the bus door? And he said, Tom, he said, that's really easy. I can't stand contractors. He didn't know at the time that I was a contractor, and I said, tell me about that. Why are contractors so rough? He said, you know, sometimes when we're working on somebody's little house or somebody's little hut, you know, we'll establish a pattern in a way that a nurse or a school teacher can kind of follow and basically accomplish. And contractors will look at this method and go, you're crazy. Don't you understand what plans look like? Don't you understand how we should be putting this together? So there's so many ways that a professional contractor comes and really gets in our way that it really becomes aggravating. And that was a great lesson to me to sometimes just show up and listen. Just show up and be a positive part of the experience. So if we fast forward that experience to me being in Guatemala, we had come upon a site that a group wanted to do kind of a gymnasium gathering educational building. They wanted to build a building about 60 feet wide by 100 feet deep, about 2 stories tall, and they pointed out into this grassy field and said, there's where we want to build it. And I looked at the gentleman that I was standing with, and we had an interpreter because they didn't understand English and I didn't understand Spanish. And I said, well, can I see the plans so we know where to start? And he said, we have no plans. Really? I went to bed that first night thinking, I'm supposed to work with 20 men whose language I don't even understand to build this very large building with no plans? Really? So the next morning about 7 o'clock, I'm having a cup of coffee and I'm looking out into the field, and these 4 gentlemen, they come up behind me and they said, we have plan, we have plan. And I'm like, really? That's cool. And the gentleman, he came to me and he opened this concrete bag, and he had done a drawing on the inside of it. And here was what his crayon picture basically looked like. And I'm here to tell you, I had to hold myself back, and I almost really blew it. I almost said, you gotta be kidding me, man. This isn't gonna work at all. And something inside me said, just shut up, just shut up. And I took the plan and I stared at it. And I walked over to where we were gonna build the building, and I held it up. And I looked at him and I said, I see the building, great plan, I see. And they smiled ear to ear. And then we grabbed the pickaxes because we were in total clay, and we went out and we laid it out and we started building. All the concrete we had to mix by hand, as you can see in these pictures as we started the footers, as we put up the steel and started to build where the wall systems would be. Still not understanding each other's language, I'm holding a level, and we're doing the tie downs to keep it to keep it square. And I went, that's it, sweet, that's sweet, that's on. And he looks at me and says, what is sweet? What is sweet? And I said, good, it's good. It's yeah. He said, I understand. And we went to the next one and we started leveling it up. And I said, good. And he said, no, sweet, that's sweet. You know, and I was amazed that we didn't have to understand each other's language to accomplish at the same pace, if not faster, than when I ran crews when we all understood English. And so the pastor director that brought us there was asking me, Tom, are you going to be around tonight? It was the day before we were set to leave and fly home. And I said, yeah, I'm going to be here. And he said, you know, all the men wanted to come by and thank you. And they wanted to hang out with you. And I said, well, that's cool. You know, I have had the best time ever. And he says, you don't understand. He says, before you came, they did not want to meet you, and they did not want to work with you. And I said, well, why? And he said, because when Americans come and work with them on sites, they typically make fun of them. And they typically really don't want to work with them. And they typically tell them that everything that they do is wrong. And he said, you didn't do that. He says, everything you guys did was to accomplish and to build and to move. And I thought, you know, had I not 6 years previous had the opportunity to understand how tough contractors can be on these local folks and on accomplishing these great construction goals, I'd have never taken that breath and said, I see.